Well, hello again, traders, and welcome out. This is August from Maverick Currencies here, and let's begin our market coverage. It's a Tuesday, July the 19th. There's a lot to talk about today. So let's get into it and take a look at today's market price action and talk about our upcoming 24 hours and take a look at some of the key currency pairs that actually we're watching for a possible trade. So let's do a quick market analysis. So today was a bit of a U-turn from yesterday. I know this market, as we talked about yesterday, is a volatile market. So where, the price action continues to flip-flop back and forth. So the way market closed yesterday, by a textbook, it was a reversal. And there was a less of a chance for markets to actually go higher, because if you take a look at the movement, we actually rejected this downward trend line and we actually fell right back there. So everything was really pointing out to a weaker open today. But take a look at that. Overnight, the market price action did rally. I mean, if you look at the overnight price action, we just didn't really sell off again after closing yesterday. We just had a nice climb overnight and into the day today. So pretty good, the positive price action. Same thing in the world markets. You can see that we are actually a little bit underperforming in the European or in the world markets, but overall getting closer towards breaking out that downtrend. And we are seeing a very similar story play out in the crypto world. I mean, two back-to-back gains. Remember, I talked about yesterday that this crypto actually has to have a follow-through after these solid gains to really give us a show us that it needs to rally further. And so far, pretty convincing. So this is where, are we at an inflection point? Well, we could possibly be. I mean, this is a solid day today. SPX up 2.76%. I mean, this is a good percentage change move across the board. Cryptos are up 3.52. Oil was also up 1.78. So notice that some of the troublesome areas like oil, I mean, it's not really affecting what the market does overall. We're seeing a constant improvement here in the risk trends. And I mean, if you take a look at this trend line, I mean, we are in this downward trend since April. So breaking this actually gets us right at this 50-day moving average. So we close right above. I mean, the candlesticks did kind of close above this moving average. So I think the next 24 to 48 hours is very important, because we need to establish this as a confirmed breakout and maybe have an inside candlestick here and then continue to move forward to the upside. So, I mean, market has been in this downward pressure for the longest time. Everybody's been kind of watching for markets to bottom out. I mean, it's as we are seeing this week, we're starting off with a much better price action here and looking for a further follow through. So remember, in between we can see some pauses, but what we need to see is this a market regime change? And if it is, I mean, we went from sideways market to now a breakout market, so we can play a little bit more directionally if this market has more legs behind it. Again, it's just first couple of days. I mean, we need to see a nice little weekly close for the markets this week to mark a nice bottom here. So the overall market outlook, I think, remains positive, or sideways to go higher. We could see some consolidation over here in the gains, but overall market price action actually looks a little bit better. So the outlook overall is still a +1. I mean, we are now above the 50-day, so that's turning yellow here. So there's nothing really in the red. I mean, which is a better sign that we actually have been in this 20, 50, and the sloping is all negative, and now they're actually turning flat to positive. So good, interesting price action so far. So let's talk about news events. I mean, we are still Tuesday in, and there's still a lot to kind of go over as far as the news event goes. So, I mean, starting tomorrow, we have the pound and the Canadian CPI. Again, CPI numbers, at this point, it seems like it's better to assume that they will be stronger. I mean, all the CPI numbers, they're coming from the previous month, and they are actually coming out a lot stronger. So this is where we still have this delay, this lag. So if we think that the inflation has peaked, I think we need to see a couple more reports to really confirm that. But I think this report still come out positive. Remember, on Sunday we had that report from New Zealand, and that was at 1.7%. And that actually caused a nice little rally in this Kiwi here. So I think I'll probably see a bit of a push to the upside. But I mean, you can see that the Kiwi was not able to sustain that move and actually turn lower. So we'll have to kind of wait and see. But this will give us a good opportunity around this event. The another important event for the next 24 hours to 48 hours is Bank of Japan. I know we are not expecting any changes from the Bank of Japan, but this is where there's an opportunity. I mean, the yen is hitting some extreme levels. So can the Bank of Japan make any sort of change? I think this is something you want to be cautious for if you're trading the bank, any central bank events. I think at this point, I mean, we saw the same thing with Swiss franc. I mean, we would like not expect the Swiss bank to actually move ahead of the ECB, but they did. So I think at this point, if they don't do anything, I mean, it's not really a downside event risk, but if they do something, that's a big upside event risk. So I think something we need to pay attention to. And again, this could be a snoozer, but like I said, we just need to make sure that we are understanding that there's something out in the tomorrow. So for Japanese yen, watch out. And for the euro, I mean, we have the ECB rate statement. Again, they're looking for raising rates by 25 basis points. Overnight, we did see some rally that happened because there was some reports that the ECB will likely to do a 50 basis point hike. And again, if they do that, that would surprise some of the markets, and I think that would be positive for the euro. But we're noticing the euro is already running ahead of this ECB rate statement. So there's euro crosses that we need to pay attention to, but we're seeing positive price action already ahead of it. So the next 24 to 48 hours actually looks the most important to me here as far as the news event goes. So let's do a quick currency analysis, take a look at percentage exchange, and talk about our upcoming 24 hours. So as far as the percentage change goes, you can see Bitcoin Cash. I mean, they did rally a bit today. I mean, remember, Ethereum was actually up 10%, almost 10% yesterday. So we're giving back a little bit gains there, but then we had these other coins that were actually underperforming. They did go up by about 2-3% yesterday, so they're just adding on to those gains. But they're still, I mean, I think Ethereum still overall stays the most positive for this week. So I think crypto looks very promising. Same thing as we are looking in the markets. They're hitting that 50 moving average. We need to get that above that in order to get us out of this downtrend that we have been in, especially the 20 to 50 moving average. Now, looking at the currency movement, this is a very typical risk-on environment movement. Both the dollar and the yen went lower, and we had the growth currencies like the Aussie, the Kiwi, and the Cad actually went higher. So, as we look at this daily, at the end of the day, I mean, we noticed again the dollar and the yen remain weak for the most part. Quite a volatility or quite a back and forth that we're seeing in the Cad and the Kiwi here. I mean, Aussie held on to the gains, but Cad was actually weaker, but it had rally, and then Kiwi was actually a lot more stronger or on par with the Aussie and actually gave back some of the gains. So in between during the day today, we didn't see much of a follow through, but there was a whole lot of movement overnight. And I think this is back to back in 2 days where we're seeing nice overnight movements. The difference yesterday was that we got a nice little reversal where we actually got a nice U-turn in some of these currency pairs. But today was not the day. Today we just had a one-sided move, and that's pretty much it. So as far as the velocity goes, again, the cryptocurrencies are now sitting at a +2. Aussie's actually made up to a +2 on velocity as well. So remember the trend score was 0 on the Aussie, but the velocity has picked up. And at this point, I think the Aussie start to look a little bit much better over here. Now, Euro, Cad, and Kiwi, they're in a +1 category. Swiss franc really didn't do much. I know yesterday I was liking Swiss franc as a short, but as you can see, the dollar and the yen really stole the show today by being the worst two currencies. So let's talk about possible trades, because if this theme continues in the markets, should we expect further gains? And I think that's something we need to kind of look at the markets and then see, well, if this is a market regime change, then that should be the path that market should be taking. So I actually love to use the 4-hour chart just to kind of look at the trends and see which way we are. I mean, you can see that we were in a downtrend for the most part, and we actually making a nice little reversal over here. So what we need to see is that if this marks a reversal, then we need to get a higher highs and a higher lows, which means that even in a trend change, we could see pullbacks. But those pullbacks could just be buying opportunities. So just in this case, where every rally was getting sold, in this case, we can see every pullback getting bought out. And that's just the price action we need to follow, or confirmation as if this is what we get. I mean, RSI, you can see, kind of looks a little overbought, so I would love to see some pullbacks to really buy into. Now, if you take a look at the percentage change, it was a nice percentage change today. I mean, Aussie dollar up to 1.26, Aussie yen was up 1.3. So it was a broader Aussie rally. I mean, if you take a look at the trend score on the Aussie, I think at this point, here we go. We're actually popping a little bit higher. So I mean, Aussie's been a tough one to trade. I mean, look at the wicks that we have seen on this one. So it's good to see that it's picking up a little bit. I'm still mildly bullish. I think we need to get a lot more continuity from these movements in order to mark a continuation in this Aussie to the upside. So the question is, what else that we'd like on the upside? I mean, we have the Canadian dollar that has been outperforming. I mean, at this point, after the rate hike last week, I mean, you can see the Canadian dollar hasn't gone anywhere. So the CAD actually is sideways, but it's having nice volatility in the shorter term. I mean, take a look at the movements. Each pullbacks that are coming into the CAD actually being bought out. I mean, this is the last 24 hours, and look at the pattern. We did sell off. We did rally, and then we sold off again. And we'll rally again. So we are seeing this continuation of this back and forth that's coming into the CAD here. So the question is, what's the next move in the CAD? I mean, CAD still stays very positive. I mean, at this point on a trend score, I would put CAD as a 0 to a +1. But velocity wise, I think there is better opportunities that are happening when there's a big move, either on the downside or the upside. I mean, whenever we see market continue to make a run on these pullbacks, that means that it actually wants to go higher. So it looks like we still have to stay positive on the CAD until we see any changes. Now, Kiwi is the one that's been a tricky. I mean, take a look at Kiwi. I mean, look at this week. I mean, we started off on Sunday with a nice movement to the upside, and then we actually gave up all the gains. Here we got a nice little movement overnight, and we just did not rally the entire day today. Considering the fact that markets were actually very strong throughout the day today, notice that it just didn't really follow that. So a lot of movements that are happening overnight. I mean, if traders are trading overnight, I mean, that's where the movements are happening. But during the day, I mean, take a look at it. There was no opportunity in the Kiwi. There was not really a whole lot of, I mean, there was an opportunity only in the CAD because it made that nice reversal. But interestingly, last night, CAD actually sold off along with the dollar. And then this morning, CAD took a bit of a rally. But if you take a look at outside, I mean, we have Aussie that just didn't go anywhere throughout the day today. So long little base here. So if you missed a move and you're looking for breakouts, I mean, look for confirmation because, you know, you don't want to sit through this sideways pattern. I mean, we had this very kind of similar move yesterday. I mean, look at the U-turn that we got right here. I mean, at this point, it looks like, hey, the dollar CAD wants to go higher. And just overnight give back, and then here we are testing the lower bound of that range. So I mean, if you're looking at dollar CAD at this point, and we're sitting at the support here, I'm still wary of the CPI. Again, I think CAD still give us a good opportunity. I mean, if you take a look at currency pairs like CAD, which I was kind of watching for a turnaround, but I mean, look at the volatility that we're getting here: sell off, rally, sell off. So, I mean, the good thing is that there is movement happening, but it's just not sustaining or holding over time. So shorter term opportunities are there, but it's hard to pick things that would stick around for longer. So that's where you have to be cautious and make sure that you're using the right time frame for it. I mean, this is a good trending market that you want to stay long on a higher time frame. I know I had traders that were actually trading these Aussie yen and the Kiwi yen. I mean, you can see that the trend is there to the upside, and slowly it's actually making a turnaround. On a 4-hour chart, you can see we're actually breaking out a little bit. So tomorrow, again, like I said, if this whole yen trade, if you're trying to be long, again, understand that we have this Bank of Japan tomorrow. Don't want to hold it through it as a short, but once we get past it, and let's say there's no change from Bank of Japan, maybe that's the time to get back onto the horse and jump on these yen crosses. But for now, I mean, we are at this extreme stretch levels. I mean, dollar yen had a nice little pullback on a 4-hour chart. So if you're looking for a resumption of some trends, I mean, at this point, the question is the dollar really pulling back across the board? Is the dollar move dead? I mean, if you look at it, dollar really hasn't given us that much opportunity on the short side as it has been on the upside. It's been pretty resilient. I mean, last month, after the CPI figures that we had last week, I mean, the dollar stays strong only until after the FOMC statement that's again due next week. But you can see that this 2-day sell-off, and we have been kind of on the uptrend on the dollar. So the question is, and again, you have to take a look at back in time in May. Remember that sell-off that we got, and that lasted for about 3 weeks. So we were in an uptrend. This was the turnaround time, and then every rally was being sold. The question is that, are we in that camp? Well, in this case, we have a support. That's where it's sitting at right now. If it doesn't bounce from here and it has some weaker bounce, I mean, take a look at yesterday. We got this little bear rally and we sold off. I think if this continues and this is the last kind of support here before it actually turns lower, I think the dollar outlook is now a little bit questionable. Interestingly, next week we have the FOMC, which is again will cause some stir as people will start talking about either it's going to be a 75 basis point rate hike or it's going to be 1%. But interestingly, dollar is actually turned ahead of it. So is the dollar turning because the risk trends are turning? Again, that's a good possibility. Markets are rallying here, which again is helping the dollar to pull back because now we are going from a risk off sentiment to a risk on sentiment. So if you take a look at dollar on a 4-hour chart, I think this is where we need to kind of wait and see what happens here. But yeah, dollar doesn't look good here, which is why if you take a look at some of the crosses, I mean, we're getting a nice little high base on Aussie dollar. Dollar CAD is just hitting that support. I mean, I would love to see a bit of a bear rally or some sort of relief in these currency pairs to give us a good opportunity to re-enter. If you're looking still like the dollar, I think dollar yen still looks good to me. And let's take a look at dollar Swiss franc. I mean, even dollar is actually turning against the Swiss franc, which actually held in very nicely yesterday when we looked at it, and overnight it kind of gave up the gains again. So the dollar could be again just maybe in this little shorter term pullback as the euro is rising. And I mean, take a look at euro against the US dollar. I mean, we actually went from hitting parity level to now 102.26. I mean, that's a considerable move, like just off the bottom here ahead of this ECB press conference. I mean, we are seeing a bit of a trade kind of running ahead of it. So I still think if the Thursday will be an important day, and that would affect both the euro and the dollar. So this is where trade the currencies in front of you and look at the movements that were likely to happen with this market environment here, and just trade the markets accordingly. I mean, we had an entire day yesterday and a very entire day today, and tomorrow could be a total different day as well. We could start to see some pullbacks take place. I mean, who knows, right? So this is where the markets, as they continue to go back and forth, we need to trade the markets accordingly. I mean, yesterday was a rally with the sell-off. Today was a rally, but it held on to the gains. So really not really happening here, but overnight session is where things start to pick up. So if you're looking for those trades, I think overnight is where things likely to start or lead going into tomorrow. So that's the game plan here. Again, we'll be back tomorrow with the market midweek update. We'll take a look at the markets, how things are moving. But again, I think if you're looking for news events, check out the tomorrow morning, and then wait for the Bank of Japan, and then most importantly Thursday for the ECB. So lots happening. Stay on, stick with your trading plan, and keep trading. All right, take care, everyone. Cheers.